Welcome back to Eye on the Western Cape. Since its inception 9 years ago, the Cape Town International Convention Centre has contributed nearly 20 billion rand to South Africa's GDP and has created more than 7,000 jobs in the Western Cape. I spoke with the CEO, Rashid Tofi, and started off by asking him how the Cape Town Convention Centre competes with its international counterparts for foreign investment.
We absolutely see ourselves as one of the players in the international long-haul market. So, not that we don't compete with the Barcelonas and Amsterdams of the world, but when someone's thinking of rotating their big global conference, they look at long-haul destinations. So rather than other convention centres in South Africa like Durban or Joburg, our real competitors on the global stage are Melbourne, Vancouver, Mexico City very often, Vancouver, and then of course on the eastern side, Seoul, Korea, KL and Singapore. They are competitors of ours, but we really feel Cape Town certainly has all the offerings that will make it be a player in that field. We just need to continue to have the capacity to attract that kind of business.
You stated that around 3% of total conferences worldwide happen in Africa, and that you are quite involved in promoting Africa and South Africa, specifically also Cape Town, as a world-class conference destination. Can you tell us more about this?
The 3% comes from statistics generated by the ICA, the International Conference and Congress Association, and they measure the number of international association meetings which rotate around the world. And South Africa, Africa as a continent, has just over 300 of those meetings, even though there are literally 30,000 of them. So I believe there's so much more market potential on the African continent, and I think as the future consumer market base, it's at 1 billion consumers. Conferences simply have to start locating, bringing their products here, starting to find out what Africa thinks. And so as a chairperson of the ICA Africa chapter, I regard it as a priority that we focus on bringing more meetings to Africa. And by focusing on the general increase in demand in Africa, South Africa and Cape Town will always be a beneficiary of that increase in growth.
Turning towards the CTICC again, what contribution does it have for the Western Cape economy here?
Well, just looking at from a national point of view, last year, based on the foreign exchange brought into the country by the numbers of over 1 million delegates came through our doors, it was 2.5 billion rand contribution to the national GDP. And if you work that out on the gross domestic product, for the geographic product for the Western Cape, it was just under a billion rand. So 900 million rand contribution to the Western Cape economy. And that translates to over 7,000 jobs, both locally and nationally throughout the country. So in tough economic times, when the country really in many areas are shedding jobs, the convention centre is what I believe is in the knowledge economy, and I think that's where the future jobs are going to be created.
And it's not just conference and events that are generating this revenue, it's also all the feeder industries, tourism. What are your thoughts on the broader impact of conferences here in Cape Town on some of the feeder industries?
Well, it depends on your approach, and our approach has always been to not in-source everything. So every year, a huge part of our 140 million rand turnover is spent on small businesses and on the creation of small and micro enterprises. So our success is the success of businesses. Whether you're a supplier of vegetables to our organization, or you're a hotel operator or a bed and breakfast, we're part of a very valuable value chain. And I think the success of the CDICC in the last 9 years has seen, in fact, the entire Congress industry, professional conference organizers, transport operators, the tourism industry have all grown, and even other competing venues. People often think we're not at all the only conference centre in town, and it's important that since the advent of the Cape Town Convention Centre, the entire conference and events industry has grown as a result of it.
Going forward, looking at the expansion plans of the CTICC, what stage are you now at the development process? Have there been any spanners in the works?
We're at quite an advanced stage. From an architectural point of view, we're at design stage 2. We're in the design development stage. So we've appointed architects. We've appointed, in fact, our full professional team, engineers, sustainability consultants, project managers. We have the funds approved, and we literally are going full steam ahead. The spanner in the work is that we are dealing within a legislative environment where you need municipal approvals, you need provincial approvals. So we're waiting still final statutory approval on some of the municipal asset transfer regulations, for example, and then a final outcome of some statutory bodies that are just seeing that we've sort of crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's in terms of securing the land for this and securing the funding for this transaction.
Looking at the political landscape in South Africa, such as the issue in the mining sector at the moment. What impact do you believe this has on the conference market? Do you believe that it affects just South Africa or the greater region?
Well, of course it affects us. It's not nice to be out there. I'm going next week to Washington, D.C. trying to promote our destination. And if the headlines are showing that we have social unrest, or that we're not managing to manage labor and the ownership of businesses and the sort of integrity of businesses, I think it impacts on people's perception of the destination. Interestingly, the international market's quite resilient. People still book conferences many years in advance, and it's probably because every country has their problems, both politically and socially and economically. But that being said, we really must be careful as a country and as a continent that it doesn't become so untenable that international organizers really ask themselves whether they should simply go to another continent. And if they have a choice between locating a conference somewhere in Africa or in South America, we want to create an environment where they can be positive and feel safe and secure. And I don't mean that from a personal safety, but so that they can have the confidence to book in advance like they do right now and know that the event will still take place despite whatever the economic or political climate is. So.
You touched on technology in your presentation and teleconferences, which remove the geographic boundaries between people. Do you see technology as a threat or as an ally to the conference, especially at the CTICC going forward?
Well, I think it's a huge opportunity, and I think it's because the ethos of the organization is to say that if you're going to survive in a changing world, you've got to almost stay ahead of the curve and change faster than the industry is changing. So if you were to see teleconferencing as an alternative to a traditional conference, which it could be, people could simply not get on the plane and engage in a meeting, then it is a threat. But we're in the meetings industry, not in the running of a conference center. So if the future is to do telepresence rooms or a hologram on the stage so that the speaker can reduce his carbon footprint by not flying out, we will be in that business. And I think we're well positioned and poised. One of the outcomes of the FIFA World Cup was fantastic carbon fiber networks and bandwidth, and I think we need to continue to invest in our economy in building the sort of pipeline of we will need better bandwidth, but I think it will come. We have the CCOM cable, and as soon as we can link up to all those things, I think we're very well poised to surprise people and to blow them away when they come here in terms of the technology, because they expect all sorts of other things from Africa, but they don't expect world-class technology.
With that better bandwidth, when can we start expecting free Wi-Fi here at the convention center then?
It's the kind of buzzword. We've actually introduced it as of 2013. If you book a conference here, what we call a daily conference package, we've included Wi-Fi. So free Wi-Fi is already part of the reality. It's never free. Someone pays for it, but we're happy to include it in the package because we think it's an absolutely part of being a world-class convention center.